Think about all of the fucking ways that we've bent ourselves up to try to believe that some string is going to get pulled for Kyrie. We went from slandering Eric Adams. Well, uh wait for the election day. When that's when you're gonna find out that the new mayor is gonna change De Blasio's stupid ruling. That was dumb. And I'll tell you why it was dumb, Nets fans. Because one of you actually knows the guy, actually spoke to the mayor at the fundraiser that he was having for the mayor. And guess what? He's not changing it. Because guess what? That would be stupid. Are you not paying attention to what's going outside? Long lines outside the city MD. People catching these variants left and right. You think they're going to let the most visible, most recognizable worker in the borough of Brooklyn shirk his responsibilities for stuff that they're trying to get people not to believe anymore? What logic? What kind of grown-ups think this way? That you would even put fan pressure on Joe Tsai to let Kyrie play on the road. People are dying, especially people that look like Kyrie. I'm sorry, Sam.
No, look. So I want to respond to a couple of things that you said because when you said, I mean, everything you said, I 1,000% agree with, as you know. But I wanted to add a couple of things. So in the Shams podcast, right? So like when I don't know if you ever have this with Trey. I know I definitely had this with my parents when they knew when I was younger in school and I would read something, they'd be like, "Oh, so what was that about?" And I give one or two sentences and they're like, "Did you even understand what you just read?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah." And then I try to explain it and I'm saying a lot of likes and I don't really know nothing that I'm saying is making sense. That was basically what Shams was doing because what he was reading from whatever Kyrie had told him was such nonsense and gibberish that and again, this isn't against the glue guys, the hosts, but they would ask Shams something. He was like, Kyrie just has optimism and there's
no. He said from the player side, wink, wink.
Yeah, it's
there's a lot of optimism, but guess what? Guess what, Sam? They talked to Kevin Durant tonight. They asked him again. Do you feel like Kyrie is coming back? Why don't you scan Twitter for me while I paraphrase? Do you feel like Kyrie could come back? Maybe you and him are hatching a way to play on the road to get Joe Tsai to change his mind. And you know what he answered, right? Blah blah blah, blah blah, blah blah blah. A non-answer.
And as you said, what Shams was saying was complete gibberish because to his credit, what he was reading, the scripture or the script that Kyrie gave him could have been written in Chinese for all we know. It was completely incoherent and there was nothing new to say. And that's why when the article came out, I felt like me and you and I think Bam and probably a couple others were on an island basically being like, what? Okay, there's renewed optimism. That's like me saying, my knee, my Achilles is torn, but there's renewed hope that I'll be able to play basketball soon. It's yeah, if you rehab and you do everything you're supposed to do, maybe. But in this situation, nothing's changed about the vaccination, and so there's a 3 or 4 prong thing that I wanted to just state very quickly and succinctly for everybody so that they understand this, because me and you have both looked into this more than anybody. If you think that the mandate is going to go away, you're out of your mind, because cases are blowing up. People aren't getting boosters because people aren't getting boosters and the original shot. Different variants are coming, and it would be political suicide, especially in a liberal city like New York City and in a liberal state like New York State, to put in a mandate to get rid of a mandate that is that's restrictive on COVID, especially lifting one that would help athletes and entertainers who make millions of dollars a year. That's objectively political suicide, is treating the rich and the famous better than you're treating municipal workers. Number two, the mandates are working in New York City. There's a recent article in The Gothamist that shows that up to 90, I think it's 93 or 94% of New York City workers are vaccinated. So that there goes that. All of the Supreme Court has had multiple instances where they've been able to stop mandates that have gone on, especially for healthcare workers, and the Supreme Court has gotten rid of the cases every single time and kept the bans in place. So this has always been, and we said this whenever this crap started, September, October. I'm honestly exhausted by it at this point, but we said this earlier. Given that the Nets decided that he's not going to be a road player, and there's been no inclination that they're going to change on that based off of Cy and Marks and Steve Nash and the team's comments in October, he either gets the vaccine or he is getting traded. To me, this has become as black and white of an issue as you can get. This whole road thing is not happening.
Here's why that's not likely though, Sam. The reason why it's not likely is because that he gets traded is because the returns is going to be so poor.
But if I told you, here's the thing. I was getting into arguments with people on Twitter today. You cannot have. It's the same thing with the Sixers with Ben Simmons. You cannot go into the playoffs this year with a third or 25-30% of your salary cap with a guy who's at home like cultivating plants with his wife. Like, it's just, that's not sustainable. And we all know they are not. If the Bucks are healthy, and maybe if the Bulls are healthy, they're not beating those teams without Kyrie. Like, they have to get value back for him. There's just, and I don't care if it's 60 or 70 cents on the dollar or 50 cents on the dollar, because they made their bed with Kyrie and it's a sunk cost at this point. It's like to me, it's a basic economic, like, you move on. This thing should have been great. He should be playing right now. He's not getting the vaccine because he's had bad experiences with doctors in Cleveland and Boston before. Like, and because of, like, you cut bait and that's it. You move on. Like, this whole is he gonna play? Is he not gonna play? Like do we go into next season? Like, the notion that they would keep him into the playoffs where he can't play, only to then discuss a contract extension with him, is so antithetical to everything about sports and what I think KD and Sean Marks and Steve Nash and Joe Tsai think about sports, that I just don't see it happening. I mean, Eve, you saw Steve Nash today in the pregame press conference, and then I'll stop talking. The pregame press conference and during the game, that dude is masked up. That dude has said, like, nothing is changing. Like, he knows the severity of this stuff. They're not going anywhere. Like, these things aren't going anywhere.
It's like the wrong team to be that dude. Sean, Steve Nash in a lot of ways is anti-Kyrie. Steve Nash is a paleo diet, which is the opposite of vegan, right? He's believe in science and medicine. Kyrie is holistic healing and crystals. You know what I'm saying? And sage. Never to forget the sage. But at the same time, that it's like I said, there's no way Kevin would ever try to, like, embarrass Kyrie, throw Kyrie under the bus. He loves the kid. They asked him tonight. They asked Kevin tonight, what was, they asked him about the report and whatnot, and Kevin said, him and Irving, they talk about everything, but said, I'd rather keep those conversations in house though. And again, right after that, Skip Bayless tweeted something about Kevin Durant being an assassin, getting things done, and then he retweets, he quote tweets that tweet and says, "I really hate you."
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Kevin Durant is not a dude that, if he thought Kyrie was being treated unfair, if Kevin Durant thought Kyrie should be playing on the road, Kevin Durant is not a dude that would not just say that. Yep. But how can Kevin Durant say that when he and all of his teammates, including the young ones, including the old ones, are vaccinated? They didn't do it even necessarily for themselves and for their loved ones. They did it to play this season. And you know how you know that? Because they all went and got it together. They weren't vaxxed. And sometime in August, when the word came out, they went and they did it.
I got another point to add to all of this, to what you just said about his teammates getting the vax. This is from Brian Lewis, who I know people think is an anti-Kyrie person, whatever. He's a reporter for the New York Post, and he does a good job about the Nets. Brian Lewis tweeted,
he's a fucking grown-up.
He goes, I asked LaMarcus Aldridge in camp if his cardiac issues can make him more vulnerable to COVID. Quote, yeah, for sure. For sure. You always have to be worried about it, especially if you're a high-risk person player. But I've always taken the right precautions, ... So just do, so Kyrie could be non-vaccinated on the road, but being in contact with somebody who almost had to call a career last year. And look, I know that we're talking about medical hypotheticals right now, but this is real shit we're dealing with. You think LaMarcus Aldridge wants a guy who's not vaccinated around him?
Yeah. Do you think someone hasn't? You saw how they answered the question, right? They know. The Nets as an organization believe in science.
Yep.
Sean Marks, when he rebuilt this team out of the ashes of Billy King, went out and got sports scientists, the best minds, Navy SEALs and shit like that. One of the guys who does this, one of the most foremost orthopedic surgeons, did my daughter's knee.
Yep.
And she's bouncing around already. These are people, these are serious people. And we're fucking tromping in the mud with fucking flat earthers. And don't tell me, oh, that was a long time ago and it was a bit. No, this is the same bullshit. Samuel, he took a picture in a sneaker that over the summer he said were terrible and he had nothing to do with them. He did that to Nike. Has that ever happened in the history of Nike sneakers? Ever?
I mean, look, I said this to you and on Twitter, and you rightfully corrected me to a certain extent. So I'm going to modify what I'm about to say, but I think it's clear that his bullshit leaks to Shams, just like the one from months ago where he was like, I don't want to be a voice for the voiceless, and now this one yesterday about the renewed optimism. That was him basically trying to use whatever leverage he has, except he doesn't have any leverage, because at the end of the day, as you rightfully have said, if the Nets wanted him to play on road games, then they would be a different organization, and everything about them at this point would have been differently. But there's not